So long as fanaticism and fear brood over the affairs of men, we must arm to deter others from aggression. In the past 12 months, our military posture has steadily improved. We increased the previous defense budget by 15%, not in the expectation of war, but for the preservation of peace. We more than doubled our acquisition rate of Polaris submarines. We doubled the production capacity for Minuteman missiles and increased by 50% the number of man bombers standing ready on a 15-minute alert. This year, the combined force levels planned under our new defense budget, including nearly 300 additional Polaris and Minuteman missiles, have been precisely calculated to ensure the continuing strength of our nuclear deterrent. But our strength may be tested at many levels. We intend to have at all times the capacity to resist non-nuclear or limited attacks as a complement to our nuclear capacity, not as a substitute. We have rejected any all-or-nothing posture, which would leave no choice but inglorious retreat or unlimited retaliation. Thus, we have doubled the number of ready combat divisions in the Army Strategic Reserve, increased our troops in Europe, built up the Marines, added new sea lift and airlift capacity, modernized our weapons and ammunition, expanded our anti-guerrilla forces, and increased the active fleet by more than 70 vessels, and our tactical air forces by nearly a dozen wings. Because we needed to reach this higher long-term level of readiness more quickly, 155,000 members of the Reserve and National Guard were activated under the act of this Congress. Some disruptions and distress were inevitable, but the overwhelming majority bear their burdens and their nation's burdens with admirable and traditional devotion. In the coming year, our reserve programs will be revised. 2 Army divisions will, I hope, replace those Guard divisions on duty, and substantial other increases will boost our Air Force fighter units, the procurement of equipment, and our continental defense and warning efforts. The nation's first serious civil defense shelter program is underway, identifying, marking, and stocking 50 million spaces. And I urge your approval of federal incentives for the construction of public fallout shelters in schools and hospitals.
The United States Army presents The Big Picture, an official report produced for the armed forces and the American people.
Let every nation know, whether it wishes us well or ill, that we shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe, to assure the survival and the success of liberty. On the presidential coat of arms, the American eagle holds in his right talon the olive branch, while in his left he holds a bundle of arrows. We intend to give equal attention to both.
The Pentagon is headquarters for our nation's military strength, which is the direct responsibility of the Secretary of Defense of the United States, Mr. Robert S. MacNamara.
This film is a report to you on our progress in providing a flexible defense force ready for any challenge, big or small. Twice in a century, we've gone unprepared into global conflicts, and we've waited until our economy's conversion to war needs could see us through. Today, with the possibility of quick nuclear destruction, we can no longer rely on long-range potential and second chances. In my first year in office at President Kennedy's direction, I undertook a vigorous program to ensure that we have enough military power to defend ourselves as a nation and to support our friends and allies. Our national strength in this period of crisis depends not only on guns, bombs, and bombers, but also on what each of us can do for his country. We must face total communist aggression with total dedication to defend the frontiers of freedom, physically and ideologically. Here is what we're doing to meet that challenge.
The major purpose behind our buildup has been the desire to increase our military flexibility. President Kennedy has said, we intend to have a wider choice than humiliation or all-out nuclear war. This does not mean we are downgrading our nuclear power. On the contrary, we are increasing our nuclear strength. We will use whatever forces the situation demands to reach our objective. It simply means we have more than one option to use. How our nation shall be armed, what weapons it needs to meet all crises, are the decisions of the President as Commander-in-Chief of all the armed forces. The Secretary of Defense and the top defense officials determine the needs and make their recommendations. The Joint Chiefs of Staff, the chairman and the top-ranking officer from each of the armed services, provide valuable military counsel and judgment to the Secretary of Defense and the President based on long years of military experience. The funds to pay for men and weapons are voted by Congress each year after study and debate. How we use our defense funds must depend on many significant factors. None is more important than judging the plans, the strategies, and the capabilities of possible aggressors, and shaping our forces to meet every challenge. We know, of course, that our opponent has missiles such as these, and intercontinental missiles equipped to travel thousands of miles. We also know that the United States has a nuclear retaliatory force of such lethal power that an enemy move which brought it into play would be an act of self-destruction on his part. Backbone of the retaliatory force is the Strategic Air Command, and we will rely upon SAC bombers into the late 60s and possibly early 70s. The U.S. today has hundreds of manned intercontinental bombers capable of reaching the Soviet Union, including over 1,500 heavy and medium bombers capable of intercontinental operations because of our highly developed in-flight refueling techniques and worldwide base structure. We are increasing the number of bombers already operational that we keep in the air at one time to prevent surprise attack that might destroy them on the ground. At the same time, our bomber forces on continuous ground alert are being stepped up to 50%. In the Navy, we have 15 attack carriers which can add to U.S. nuclear counterpunch. We are increasing the number of Polaris nuclear submarines with the 7 Seas as a launching base. These submarines cannot be eliminated by sudden attack. Present plans call for us to have 29 of them operational by 1964. Our forces are so deployed and protected that a sneak attack could not effectively disarm us. Also ready in underground missile bases are intercontinental ballistic missiles, which can be fired from protected bases in the USA, such as Titan or the Atlas shown here. We are investing in another ICBM called the Minuteman in the belief it will play a major role against aggression. Plans call for this solid fuel nuclear weapon to be dispersed in a wide variety of places and to be operational by the end of 1962. The destructive power which the United States could bring to bear even after a Soviet surprise attack upon our forces would be as great as, perhaps greater than, the total undamaged force which the enemy can threaten to launch against the United States in a first strike. To get as much time as we can to put all our offensive and defensive weapons in action in event of attack, we are investing defense funds in improving our ballistic missile early warning system. Also developing a system capable of detecting an enemy missile attack. This will increase our warning time to as much as 30 minutes. Nike Zeus, the Army's anti-missile missile, is undergoing tests in the research and development stage like this launch. Meanwhile, already on site guarding U.S. cities and other strategic targets from surprise bomber attack are Nike Hercules batteries of the Continental Air Defense Command. These are manned by well-trained Army and National Guard units. But safeguarding the capabilities of our military force is not enough, because there is nothing upon which we place a higher value than the life of an individual. Measures are being taken to do much more than has been done so far to protect us on the home front against thermonuclear attack, should one come. In 1961, the Department of Defense was directed by the President to assume responsibility for civil defense. By the end of 1962, it is expected that an intensified program to protect us against the dangers of nuclear fallout will make its impact. By taking advantage of identified shelters and adapting them for nuclear fallout protection, we should be able to increase survival chances in population centers most likely to be major targets. Special signs like this will indicate shelters that have been adapted or relocated to protect from nuclear fallout. Such shelters will be stocked with food and water. Additionally, each shelter will have first aid and sanitary supplies, tools with which to remove debris, and radiation meter kits to determine the continuing safety of the shelter area. This program does not guarantee survival for all of us in a large-scale nuclear attack. No program can. What it does offer is the greatest amount of protection that can be made available now and in the near future. Because no nation can live, work, or fight back effectively should its leadership or communications be destroyed, steps have been taken to safeguard both against a surprise blow. Ashore in the Pentagon or in another location, those charged with the overall counteroffensive can direct our worldwide action. Afloat, there is a seagoing command post. While in the air, SAC has a wing command post already manned. However, preparing to prevent an all-out nuclear attack or to defend ourselves against one is no guarantee of peace. In fact, such an attack may never come, for even the communists recognize that full-scale nuclear war would mean disaster for themselves. But that does not mean communism has curbed its ambition for world conquest. Starting in World War II, the aggressive communist tide has spread in Europe and Asia to engulf its neighbors. Communist China even now has plans to dominate Asia by mass murder, as in Tibet, destroying ancient civilizations. Right next door is the nation we freed in 1898, Cuba. A communist tyranny holds sway, and whiskers do not hide the naked face of dictatorship. Crisis in Berlin is another step to extend the Iron Curtain. All along the frontiers of freedom, captive peoples are separated from their neighbors by a no-man's land of barbed wire and watchtowers. Our army is face to face with communism around the world. To meet immediate threats on any front, we must build up our land forces at home and overseas. Today, we have a strategic army force of 6 combat-ready divisions, all famous fighting units, which the U.S. Strike Command will call upon for the land forces of its land-air team. The National Guard and Reserves will provide strength and depth for the Army. By including the Army National Guard and Army Reserves in battle readiness plans, we will shorten the time in which such units may be deployed. The Army is also increasing its ability to move and to fire. It is being equipped with combat vehicles such as the new M60 tank and with personnel carriers. With additional missiles of such caliber as the Honest John, Nike Hercules, and the Hawk. Rifles with improved firing and striking power, artillery and anti-tank missiles. With helicopters and other aircraft for reconnaissance and added mobility. And with vehicles built for better cross-country movement. For anti-guerrilla warfare, the Army Special Forces have been increased by more than 100%. And include foreign allies who receive their indoctrination both here and abroad. In line with other efforts to increase our non-nuclear force, we are increasing the strength of our Marine Corps to 190,000 men. Marines have traditionally established their ability to move into an emergency situation swiftly and with great striking power. To add to these valuable capabilities, new equipment will include the fully automatic M14 rifle and a lightweight artillery piece that can be airdropped. Amphibious lift will be increased by such a vessel as the landing platform dock. The Corps will also get more amphibious assault vessels and helicopters to be based aboard these new carrier-like floating platforms. Increasing the firepower and the mobility of our conventional forces is not the entire answer. We must be able to move them rapidly to any trouble spot in the world. To increase our airlift, we are getting more jet transports known as C-135s. We plan to retain several squadrons of transport planes now in service. We have called up more than 3 dozen tactical fighter and transport squadrons, plus supporting activities from the Air Force Reserves and Air National Guard. We are getting more tactical air power to go along with our combat-ready ground forces. The Navy faces a global job of huge dimensions with 71% of the Earth's surface covered by the sea. It must help protect the lifelines of transport and supply. It must meet Russia's submarine threat off our shores. Must have the sea power to play its role on the defense team in counterattack as well as defense. Anti-submarine warfare exercises emphasizing detection and destruction have top priority. We are adding new nuclear surface craft to our sea power. Also taking ships out of mothballs for sea lift and patrol. We're adding to the Navy's air arm with additional attack, fighter, patrol, and search aircraft. The United States cannot, however, meet its worldwide challenges alone. Our defense is based upon cooperation with our allies through multilateral defensive organizations and through bilateral agreements. NATO, for example, continues to be the world's greatest bulwark of freedom. A major objective of this administration is to support and strengthen the NATO alliance. In the Pentagon, a NATO standing group consisting of British, French, German, and American representatives illustrates the NATO partnership in operation. Our plans call for the maintenance and improvement of NATO nuclear strength and also for a buildup of NATO's non-nuclear defensive power. To this end, we are encouraging our allies to bring their units up to strength and to accelerate the modernization of NATO's military equipment. Our NATO allies are increasing their procurement in the United States, and a group of European nations has combined their resources to produce such modern aircraft as the F-104 in Europe. The Military Committee of CENTO, the Central Treaty Organization, meeting in Washington shows the close ties between this Asian alliance and the United States. General Lemnitzer for the United States is host to top military representatives of Iran, Pakistan, Turkey, and the United Kingdom. There are more than 40 nations to whom we give military assistance. This soldier guarding one of Asia's gateways against Soviet aggression symbolizes the determination of free men everywhere to resist communist expansion by force of arms. Here is the type of training that military aid nations get from native instructors schooled in the United States. In the USA or on maneuvers with U.S. forces, selected military students from many free nations learn what they will teach their countrymen on return to their homelands. The cost of military preparedness comes high. More than half of every tax dollar goes to defense. To get the most defense for every dollar spent, command control of money, men, and material must be simplified and improved to meet the changing needs of our armed forces. First, our forces are tailored to our needs for a balanced, flexible defense. Then the controller provides the secretary with the cost of a proposed program from start to finish, so an intelligent command decision can be made. The result is a budget that does the job required. Second, the employment of the forces has been streamlined by the creation of a new unified command, which operates under the Joint Chiefs of Staff like the 8 existing unified and specified commands. Known as the U.S. Strike Command, it combines forces of the Strategic Army Corps and Tactical Air Command into a land-air team capable of speedy action in emergencies. Third, communications, the lifeline of modern military operations, is now under a single defense communications agency, which keeps the top Pentagon command in constant worldwide touch with all the armed forces wherever they may be. Fourth, to supply support for the unified commands and all the armed forces, there is a new single agency, the Defense Supply Agency, which handles the combined buying of supply items common to all. Last but not least, in the past year, a new agency has been created to streamline the gathering of intelligence in the military field. It is called the Defense Intelligence Agency and combines intelligence functions from all services operating under the Joint Chiefs of Staff to ensure greater unity of effort. All of us are stockholders in what America is and ever will be. We all hold shares in our future and the future of our loved ones. But what price would you place on the life of a child, of an adult, on your own life? What is a family worth? What value would you truly set on a home, your job, your career, your friends, your neighbors, others you admire and respect? How much is freedom worth? What price would you place on liberty? The right to come and go as you please, where you please, and when you please. How much is freedom worth? How much? Summing up the response of America's armed forces, Secretary of Defense MacNamara has a final word of reassurance.
The dangers we face in today's world are great, but our defenses are equal to the challenge and are constantly growing stronger. Our military forces, our Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marine Corps, constitute a tremendous team. We're part of that team. In the past year, thanks to your support, we've strengthened the team by increasing our combat units, ground, sea, and air, so that we can fight limited or unlimited aggression. We've also strengthened our educational program to ensure in our armed forces an understanding of the nature of the communist threat. We're building up the Army to provide more combat-ready divisions and modernizing its weapons as fast as possible. We've increased the Navy's sea lift, its anti-submarine capabilities, and we're strengthening its striking force. We have ensured effectiveness of our strategic nuclear forces by keeping 270 more bombers operational. We've accelerated the combat readiness of all of our bombers, and we're pushing protection and dispersion for our missiles. We're not seeking to resolve disputes by violence, but if possible interference with our rights and our responsibilities does lead to violent conflict, the United States does not intend to lose.
No matter what the future holds, there is no need to fear for America. The President, as Commander-in-Chief, keeps the decade of decision alert to Washington's advice, still timely today. To be prepared for war is one of the most effectual means of preserving peace.
The pressures of life are not always distributed by choice, and while no nation has ever faced such a challenge, no nation has ever been so ready to seize the burden and the glory of freedom. And in this high endeavor, may God watch over the United States of America.
The Big Picture is an official report for the armed forces and the American people. Produced by the Army Pictorial Center. Presented by the Department of the Army in cooperation with this station.